Breaking news, the Calgary Flames trade Andrei Kuzmenko and Jakob Pelletier to the Philadelphia Flyers for two younger players that might actually surprise you.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this breaking news edition of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. We're going to go over the immediate reaction, analysis, and breakdown of the trade involving the Flames and the Flyers and just what Craig Conroy might be cooking at this point. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's just dive right into it. So let's rewind a little bit, okay? Everyone kind of knew something was up when Pat Steinberg had tweeted Kuzmenko was not out on the ice for warmups, and Kevin Rooney was, when Rooney was working late with the other healthy scratches. Because there's no way you are just going to make a last minute change like that. Unless, he got sick, came down with something, tweaked something between the end of practice and when he arrived, or a trade. And I think everyone, including myself, was kind of like, oh, a trade. It's absolutely a trade. There's no way it's nothing else. It can't be. Kind of hoping that it would just like build up as an actual trade and not just like, oh, he has a stomach bug or something. But yeah, so it didn't make any sense because when you add Rooney back to that line, it's all lefties. And Kuzmenko was performing fine. There were 5 points in 5 games. So it had to be because of a trade. And everything transpired. Game went on. First period happened, and then Jakob Pelletier was yanked from the game, which stinks. I think, again, everyone was under the impression that a trade was happening, and when a young player like Pelletier is pulled, it's the pieces start to come together. And the Flames ended up tweeting out Jakob Pelletier will not be returning tonight's game. Normally when they do that, they include like in parentheses like lower body injury, illness. There was no reason. And that was enough of a reason. Enough context clues. But this is why I'm so bummed out. I'm so bummed out that we're losing two players that have big personalities and just literally light up the room. Especially Pelletier. We know how loved he is in that locker room and how he shows everyone what they're worth and, the constant praise and things like that. But with that, you also risk losing him for nothing should you have to put him back on waivers. It was a risk at the start of the season when you sent him down, and should you have to do it again, it would be more of a risk now, I would say, because he has established himself as an NHL player more this year. So you have to really look at what the pros and cons are there and the reality of it. And he is a UFA at the end of the season as well. But in return, you are getting Joel Farabee, who is 24 years old, two-time 20-goal scorer, currently plays on the second line in Philly, and center Morgan Frost, who's 25 years old, and fits the needs of the Flames. He's a center, not a right-hand shot, but you know what? We will take what we can get. Morgan Frost is a name that's kind of been floating around there for a while in terms of players that need a change of scenery or could be a player that the Flames acquire simply because he fits the need. Both of the players add size to the Flames roster, which is what they need. They don't necessarily have a lot of bigger guys. And Pelletier's, of course, like an extreme outlier in that situation. But and both players have team control. And ultimately, that's what Craig Conroy was looking for. He wanted players that were not just going to be rentals. We're not just going to be a quick little pit stop in Calgary and then see their way out. He wanted players that he can build around and have a longer term vision for. And I think that is perfect. And of course, there's a draft pick going back to Philadelphia. I'm assuming it's this year's first round pick. However, I don't know. Like I said, nothing has been finalized yet. Just the players. And the Flames are, as I'm recording this, the Flames still have 9 minutes left in the third period and are up 2-1. So we'll see. But this is one of those decisions that has to be made. And we're going to talk more about what this added to the Flames roster coming up here next on Locked On Flames. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, and endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it super easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate, which I appreciate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets is pretty good. That is the icing on the cake. Download the app today or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5 and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, even at close to midnight when the trade happens. This is crazy. I do apologize for how I sound. If this is your first time listening, I normally do not sound like this. I just have a lot of illness going on. But wow. This is one of those decisions that has to be made, right? Because realistically, the Flames were never re-signing Kuzmenko. From what I have heard, his plan was to go back to the KHL after the summer. I don't know how true that is, but at least, and honestly, the 31st marks a year since the Kuzmenko trade with Vancouver, which is kind of funny. But we knew that the Flames were going to be moving pieces, and we knew that there were going to be business decisions being made. And I've talked about it all season long about, like, it's not personal. It is quite literally just business, and you can't take it personally, and it has to happen in order for you to get through this rebuild, retool, transitional phase. There's not much to it. There is a lot to it, but not much else to that. It's nothing personal. And I feel like Conroy has been pretty good. I feel like, especially over the summer with the Mangiapane trade just kind of coming out of nowhere. You got to do what you got to do when you do it. And I like this. Okay. I do like the return for Calgary. At first, I thought it was just going to be Morgan Frost, which was fine. Morgan Frost, obviously, like I'd mentioned earlier, his name has been floating around for I would say probably last year. Matt Coronado just scored again. He is on hat trick watch late in the third period. Good for him. But he's been a player that his name's been around. Could he be traded? Does he need a change of scenery? Limited minutes at points. It's just, it's bound to happen eventually. And, it's great that the Flames were able to cash in and get 2 young players that both fit what they're looking for. Obviously, you're looking for a player with a right-handed shot, a center with a right-handed shot, but this will do. You can't be overly picky when your cupboards are bare. And I think that adding a stronger center when you have Michael Backlund likely on the verge of retirement the end of this season is good. And I also just think having him there in general is great because it adds a better player to your roster. And ultimately that is the goal, right? We want speed, we want scoring, we want power, we want youth. Did I say speed? We want positives. And adding Morgan Frost by himself is a net positive. Great on the faceoff dot, over 50%. That's a miracle. That feels like a miracle in Flamesland. So to have a strong center that can win faceoffs 50% of the time is an upgrade. You also are getting Joel Farabee, who is a 2-time 20-goal scorer. You know what the Flames need? Consistent offense. He only has 8 goals on the season right now, but again, could this be a situation where it just needs a little bit of a change of scenery, fresh start, clean slate, and we find something again? And it's not for the lack of trying. I think, everyone obviously wants to stay where they are, I would say, like, especially if the team, like the Flyers, are kind of getting back on that right path. And to get moved like that's kind of crazy, I would imagine, because both of those players who were drafted there, they have deep roots there. But ultimately, the decisions have been made. I like that this is a situation where the Flames are adding 2 positives to this. And giving up Pelletier, it stinks because you know what he brought to the locker room and how loved he was and just the energy and the vibes. But you unfortunately have to remove those feelings in a situation like this. And that's difficult. I love Pelletier. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I am all about the little French boy in Huberdeau and kissing his teammates. I think it's adorable, and I think that we need more positivity like that. And I'm petrified that Torts is just going to rip any love and confidence in his game away from him. So, yes, you are putting 2 new players in a new locker room. This is a locker room that is not unfamiliar with change. They will get used to it. The Flames are not out of a playoff spot entirely. They are still in the mix. And this kind of tells me that this was their all in moment. This was what they wanted to do. This is what they felt was the most fitting and the best option. Because at the end of the day, how many times have we talked about this team just it's about the long-term success. This isn't like a win now mentality that we have seen the Flames in locked in for in years past. So I think that it's great. I think quite honestly, in years past, you probably would have seen them add an older player or Scott Lawton or, a player that just doesn't make sense as much as this does. I like this move. We still don't know what the draft pick is that's going. I would say it's this year's first, but well, someone has to do it. Someone you have those assets for a reason. And if we'll see how it works out, but coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with just some overall thoughts on the trade and why it ultimately is the better upgrade for the Flames here on Locked On Flames. If you are like me, you love going to live events and you love getting the best bang for your buck and finding the seats that are the best seats for the best price. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. I used Game Time when I went to Calgary and Edmonton to watch the Flames, and earlier this season again when I went up to Montreal to watch the Flames, and Game Time Picks made it so easy. I was in and out of the app in 5 minutes with my tickets in hand. Well, my phone. But it's a super great deal, and it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. What stinks about this whole situation? Matt Coronado just scored a natural hat trick to wrap up this Flames game, but the trade details have been finalized. The Flames are sending over a 2nd and a 7th round pick. So not the 1st round pick that was expected. I like this deal even more now. Glad they're not giving up the 1st. 2nd, whatever. And the 7th, have fun. I like this. I think the importance of this is to remember long-term success. We are not fighting to win the Stanley Cup right now. Maybe in a few years. But right now we are getting the pieces, adding the ingredients for the cake to bake successfully and fully. We're not going to pull it out of the oven too early. We're not going to leave it in there too long. And it's got to do that. And I think adding 2 forwards to this group, especially a young center, is huge. An established NHL player. He was drafted in the 2017 draft, 26th overall, I want to say. And, Frost has established himself as an NHL center. And that is what the Flames need. And that is what they have needed. I would argue that this is like the biggest move that they've made in the last year. Maybe because the Jacob Markstrom trade does help too, but this is, I think, I don't want to say a full needle moving trade because we know the Flames aren't looking to truly move the needle. They are looking to get somewhere, but this does help them. And could it help them in their playoff chase this year? Yeah, absolutely. Could it also help them in 2 or 3 years from now? 100%. I think this is just a matter of like, it's a win-win. This is not a bad trade for the Flames. I like I mentioned earlier, you were not re-signing Kuzmenko. You probably were gonna have to let Peltz walk because you have to let established players play, and I don't know what. I feel like it would be a similar situation to Matthew Phillips where, oh, now there's a huge fight. Cool. Is that Martin Pospisil? I think it is. Anyways, oh, it was it was Adam Klapka. Okay. Adam Klapka and Martin oh no, Ryan Lomberg on top of Jacob Trouba. You know, Trouba probably deserved it. But anyways, this is something where the Flames have investment. Like you aren't just, it's not a rental. You have like insurance with this. And I think that's what we've needed. We've needed to get younger, but also have established talent for time to come. And you can complain about Conroy, spending too much. I don't think that this is too much. I just don't. An expiring UFA you are not going to re-sign. And a player, an in-betweener, who's also on an expiring contract. What do you want to do? I feel like this is a situation where you should be happy that the Flames did this because, they didn't re-sign Kuzmenko. Like, they jumped the gun with Sharon Govich. And they aren't giving up a first-round draft pick. It looks good. And I am very excited, and this is just big for the Flames. It's not about this immediate success. You want to have that insurance, like I mentioned, but they just won again. 4-1 against the Ducks. Matt Coronado got a hat trick. Dustin Wolf was just ran into, got physical at the end. But you know what? I think that this might be like a season-changing game because, like, the whole team's personality just got traded across the continent, and you have to prove and like fight and bring the energy yourself now. No one's there to kiss you on the head when you score. But I like this. It's not a bad trade. And I think that it's okay to be optimistic about this. You don't have to be upset that Conroy did this because you could look at someone else could have made the trade and you could look at the return and be like, well, why didn't Conroy do that? Because, that's just something fans love to do. And I think that this is like the first trade, but I feel like it's going to be the only big trade that truly, I don't want to say that helps the Flames because it makes it sound like any other additions wouldn't be of assistance, but that truly makes a difference in that long-term plan. I think there's probably a chance they take on bad contracts at the trade deadline. I mean, I don't know, but that would make sense considering they have that cap space for it. I am all here for this. I'm glad people are jumping on the bandwagon for team fun. Team tank, it was, you got to be negative for that. And I didn't have that in me anymore. So since Jakob Pelletier and Andrei Kuzmenko are no longer Flames, we have to provide the energy for ourselves. So if you are going to the Flames game, whether it's a home game or an away game, be loud, be proud, and just bring it. And I'm looking forward to what Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee bring to the team. I don't know much about them and like their personalities, but Flyers Twitter loves them. So I'm going to say that's a good sign. And I look forward to what's to come next for the Flames. But that will do it for this edition of Breaking News on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. I'll be back tomorrow or later today with another episode to recap the week and any other news that might happen between now and then. Bye-bye.